morning. Welcome to Brading Roman Villa, and I've come here this morning to this old site, getting on for 2,000 years old. This villa and the farmland surrounding it has been inhabited at least 2,000 years, probably goes back a lot longer than that, but I'm going to take you back to Roman times. And this villa and the life it supported, it was important for the villa to have access to the sea. And in those days, Brading Haven came very close to this building. This is on a bit of higher land above Brading, but it would be very close to the sea, as I'll show you in a minute. And today's video is about really how Brading Haven has played an important part in the sort of history of the Isle of Wight, and especially I want to tell you the story of 1066 and how Brading Haven featured in that, how Harold spent the summer here on the Isle of Wight with his army, and why he did that. And then I want to go forward and look at the railway coming between the branch line being developed between Brading and Bembridge through St Helens, and why that changed the nature of this area, and why this particular area is no longer close to the sea, or very close to the sea, and is no longer like a part of the harbour complex, as it were. So how Brading Haven really became Bembridge Harbour. That's the story I want to tell in this video, along with the story of the summer of 1066 and Harold and his army. So we're in the flat valley floor, and you can see Brading, and I don't know if you can see the railway line just beyond the trees there. But this area, very, very flat land. At one time, this was all kind of like floodplain, and that the river would go along here, meander along here, and then out to the sea. So all of this area here would have had access to the sea. And the first stage, if you like, in changing Brading Haven into Bembridge Harbour is the building of this bridge in the Middle Ages. And until then, Bembridge had been really cut off, almost like an island. So here we are. I'm on the banks of the Eastern Yare at Brading, and there's the bridge. Obviously not the original medieval structure, but it was at that time when they built the bridge. They did do a little bit of land reclamation around that time, and they potted around, as it were, various people over the centuries, reclaiming a bit of land here and a bit of land there. But it wasn't until the railways came in the 1800s that things really began to change for this area here. So in my story about 1066, the fog here in the valley floor, this inversion, is beautifully describing in visual form the area that was once Brading Haven, and what is now Bembridge Harbour over there, and this was all, you see my hand where the fog is, right up to Brading, and where the fog lingers, that was all accessible by sea and by river, the Eastern Yare. And so Harold, who was staying, and I will go to it later, in a kind of a farmstead over that direction. I suppose his army could have been gathered anywhere around here, but his army was here ready to kind of basically see where the Normans landed on the south coast of England, which is just on the horizon over there. Could be anywhere, so I guess it was governed by the winds in those days where they would land. And then I think the plan was for Harold's fleet, which was kind of moored up in Brading Haven, where this fog is at the moment, was to sail kind of to an adjacent beach, I guess, and then attack William of Normandy's army from there. So they were expecting that attack all throughout the summer of 1066, and it didn't come because the winds were unfavourable to William. William wanted to attack, but he was kind of stuck in France, the winds against. And by the time the harvest time came, and Harold had to disband his army at the beginning of September for his soldiers to go off and collect the harvest in their farms, wherever they were, William had still not invaded, but he did invade very soon after that. So the summer of 1066, Harold, the king of the time, only been king since that January, spent that summer here. His ships moored in Brading Haven, ready to sail to the mainland once William invaded. So quite interesting. I will go up to those cottages a bit later on in the day, and I will tell you a little bit about that. So what a beautiful morning. The mist clinging to the valley floor and reminding me of the history of 1066. Just for those who don't know, maybe some of my American friends or whatever, 1066 in Britain was a very important date. It was when the Normans invaded from Normandy in France, and William the Conqueror, as he became known, became King of England. We get a lot of our kind of history from that time. Our castles and our churches, a lot of them were built in that Norman style. 1086 we got the Domesday Book, which chronicled a lot of who the land belongs to, and kind of did a census of the country. So a really important date in British history. So we've come a bit higher, and I'm just going to look down on the manor, or at least the land where the manor was in 1066 that Harold spent that summer. It is now used, I think, like as a farm, and they do shooting parties there. Guns rather than arrows, I think, but so it is kind of like a bit out of the way and hidden away, but you can see there it is, just there. I think it's called Kern Farm or something like that now. The hill gently rolls down, there's the farm, and then you've got, it's slightly higher, but then you walk down, and you are quite close to Brading, and if you like, where his fleet was. So that is where that farm. The current building, I think, was, at least bits of it, from the 1500s, but in 1066 that is where Harold stayed. I'll take a few pictures and then I'll be on my way. Good evening and welcome to Embankment Road, the road that links St Helens, which is that way, with Bembridge, which is that way. And I hope you'll walk with me, and I'd like to continue this morning's story really about Brading Haven and how effectively Brading Haven changed and became Bembridge Harbour. And that has a lot to do with what we're about to come across in just a moment's time as we cross the River Yar, the Eastern Yar, and you will see that unlike in previous times, before the railway came to town and linked St Helens and Bembridge on a branch line that came from Brading, so you had Brading, St Helens, Bembridge, you didn't have this kind of control of the river at Yar like you do today. Now, I'm not quite sure what all these things do, but they appear to be sort of gates and electronics here. Just have a look on the other side. So obviously this is much more modern than the 1800s, but something I guess similar to this would have been put in place in the 1800s to sort of control the river. And as you can see, the river there, the channel heads off to the west into now what is now wetlands and a fantastic environment for birds and marshes, but is not an estuary as such in the sense that you don't get this flooded on a daily basis as the tide comes in. And the area encompassed by Brading Haven, as I said earlier, was 5 times the area that is currently what is called Bembridge Harbour. So this here, a crucial bit. And this was built as part of this embankment, which now has the road with the number 8 bus to ride coming along it at the moment. And the road and railway came in. I'll look up the exact year that it opened. I think it took 8 years to construct this embankment and to control the river, and really then to stop Bembridge being isolated in an island and to help it develop into what it is today. So we made it to this part of Embankment Road, and we're going to turn into Station Road. So we're well onto the Bembridge side now. There's the old pilot boat in, and this is Station Road. The name gives it away really. This is the road where the old station used to be on. Okay, here we have the dates. It says a railway link between Brading and Bembridge was established, then a toll road was built on top of the embankment. Bembridge Station opened in May 1882 but closed in 1953 and was demolished in 1970. Harbour Strand was built on the former station site. So, a little poem to try and summarise the events that I've tried to talk about today. We all need a safe harbour to protect us from storm, a shelter from the worst the world can bring, somewhere to recover when the world has lost its form, a place to balm wounds and learn again to sing. Brading Haven was one such place, on the Eastern Yar, on the Isle of Wight. From at least Roman times, it has provided grace. Boats set out from the shores, through the passage tight. In 1066, Harold's fleet was moored here, through the summer, awaiting an attack. Disbanded come the autumn, there was still a fear. The danger was not over, the Normans could come back. Until the Middle Ages, when a bridge was built, Bembridge was an island, accessed at low tide. Reclamation works then started building up the silt, 10 kilometres of road from St Helens side. The embankment for the railway 1879 meant the Yar was controlled, new land came from the sea. Bembridge now developed, industry arrived, the southeast of the island found more prosperity. Brading no longer has a haven, it is an inland town. The harbour now at Bembridge, the country's largest village. Both places offer sanctuary when you feel you might just drown. To visit either one of them remains quite a privilege. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.